Hey guys, we're back. It's a little bit quieter in here, so I'm gonna let Courtney continue on. Enjoy.
Thank you. Hi. Yes, a little interruption from the neighbours. It's after all, it's their neighbours. It's their land as well. If I weren't recording, I'd probably be out there partying with them and the dogs and the kids and all of that stuff. Anyway, it was kind of cute. Anyway, we're repositioned inside now, as you see, and so we're in Egypt. We are lodged at the Mina House Hotel, which is down the there's a hill that goes up to the Giza Plateau, where the Great Pyramid sits. And it's honestly 3 minutes to the pyramid from the Mina House. Well, for me, I would run everywhere while I was in Egypt because I was a marathoner by then, and I ran everywhere. And I spent my time in running shorts, tank top, and a headdress, to keep the sun off my face. So anyway, it's 2 a.m. We're settled at the Mina House. We're sitting out by the pool. We're looking up at the Great Pyramid, and we're just chatting. Everybody's high, on the occasion. I'm into day 3 without sleep. I don't feel tired at all. But then I had done years of advanced yoga practice, and I knew how to restore myself with 12-minute yoga rest cycles. And that was something that I did throughout my stay in Egypt to fortify myself and refresh myself. So the pyramid opened to the public at 8 a.m. By then, people are lined up and they're all booked. They got tickets or whatever. And come dawn, I'm all excited, and I'm going to be up to go into the Great Pyramid with the first tour group. And I feel like there's a destiny, but I'm not thinking about it, not overthinking it. I'm just going to swivel this because the lighting is glaring on the right there. So the mandala part will just be off. I won't have a halo. It's quite all right. I can't have a halo all the time, can I? Anyway, so there we are. Yeah, there's a lot of light coming through the window. Okay. So anyway, I'm lined up outside the Great Pyramid, and there's this gaggle of tourists. There's all these different languages, and as soon as the gates open to go into the pyramid. Now, the entrance to the pyramid is it's a forced passage. It was blasted, They blasted it open. They blasted a hole through to the center of the pyramid where they discovered the Grand Gallery. The actual entrance to the pyramid, which was a grand entrance, it hadn't been discovered until they forced their way in and then found the original entrance by backtracking, but it had been covered over. It had been covered over with limestone blocks and then faced in the original days of white limestone. Anyway, we go into the pyramid, and it's 100 plus outside, it's Fahrenheit, it's like, 40 degrees Celsius. And in the pyramid, it's like 68, 70. It's like perfect temperature. Perfect. Night and day, in the middle of the desert, not middle of the desert, but in the desert, in this really hot climate. And throughout the year, it didn't matter what the temperature outside was, the Great Pyramid maintains a constant temperature that doesn't fluctuate, but a couple of degrees Fahrenheit, 1 degree centigrade Celsius. So it fluctuates about 69, 70. Perfect, perfect for a human. And so everybody, this gaggle of tourists, surge in, and then there's this ascending passage, which is you've got to crouch down to get up it because it was the passage they blasted up. And so you can't stand up, and you kind of crouch down and you kind of half crawl up this, as a banister and stuff like that. And the noise of all these different languages bouncing off the wall, it's like off the rock, it's like, tourists, Yeah, well, I was one. I was definitely touring. But I had a destiny, I felt. So anyway, and then suddenly, we open up into the Grand Gallery. The Grand Gallery is like vast, it's this great vault ascending up to the King's Chamber, and it's maybe 30 feet high in there. And these great steps, like it was made for a giant or something else. And so people are like, climbing up. And of course I'm bounding up because I'm a marathon runner. I have legs like steel and springs. and you get up to the top of the Grand Gallery, and then there's the what they call the boss stone, which is just the only little indentation in the whole pyramid that doesn't really say anything. It's just as if somebody had screwed a coin into it and made a half little dome indentation. It's called the boss stone because of this demarcation in it, but it could have just been something literally like somebody making a, with a coin. I don't think it really necessarily means much. But beyond that is the antechamber, which so-called, and you actually have to crawl through it. You can't just walk. You can't walk into it. It's really low. It's it's 3 feet high, and you crawl through it to get to the King's Chamber. It's probably the size of the sarcophagus if you slid it in, but the smallest profile, the end profile, maybe, I don't know, I didn't do the measurements, but anyway, so we get in there. I'm leading the charge of all this cacophony of guttural voices, and everybody rushes into the King's Chamber and to the sarcophagus, as if it's just an empty vessel made of a solid piece of rock, granite. It's been carved out, and and without a thought, I jump into it. I just jump into the sarcophagus, and I strike the side of the sarcophagus because it's like a bell. It's made out of one solid piece of rock and carved out, and you go ding. So I intone that pitch. 1 minute, I find that I can play with the tone, refine it, and back off from it when I get the tone exactly perfect and fine. I can back off and just hardly, make any noise, and the more pure it became, the bigger the sound became, and it just expanded in the chamber, and the King's Chamber is resonating to this pitch, and then the whole pyramid is ringing. And I stopped to take a breath after about a minute, and all this cacophony of voices is silent, and people are all going, looking down into the sarcophagus, and I'm just sitting there, and taking a breath and start again. And the guide, he's like, everybody out, gets everybody out, and he backs away, and he's like, you stay, backs out, crouches down, goes out of the antechamber and takes them all away. So I'm in the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber alone, and with toning of the pyramid. And another tour group comes up a little later with a different guide and different, same thing happens. I'm just in there toning, and he clears them all out, and they do this obeisance. And within the day, all the groups and all the different guides had come and gone, and they left me there without a word. And from then on, I had carte blanche to the Great Pyramid and the locked doors. So the next morning, I have a made an appointment before the pyramid opens to the public to go down into the subterranean chambers, which have been locked up away from the public for a long time. But they can open it. Nobody'd been down there a long time, but they did have old electricity that used to go down there from the 30s or something. None of it worked. I went down, there was a little stub of a candle, and explored it. And I took Nikki Scully with me. Nikki was really the only other, Mountain Girl, Nikki and I seemed to me, the only ones that they're on some kind of spiritual quest, or that recognize the potential for this unveiling of mysteries. But this is something that I'd been moving towards since I was a little boy. I'd had this premonition since I can ever remember, that I had a destiny with the Great Pyramid, as if it was part of an early life or something. And so I invited Nikki to come. I said, I have access to the subterranean chambers. Would you like to come down? Yes, absolutely. So we go down with this little stub of a candle, and it's the original descending passage, goes down to the subterranean chambers. And then it's all this is like, it's not organized down there. It's all of these kind of, because we're way under the pyramid now. We're down in, we're way under it. We're, a couple of 100 feet. But there's these, not avenues, they're just kind of diggings, as if somebody was exploring or looking, or I don't know. It's not organized at all. It's a bit chaotic. But there is this, you come upon this pit that's just a square pit that goes down deeper into the rock strata, because we're way down in the bedrock. And then we've got the little stub of a candle that's getting smaller, and I find something and I drop it down. Oh, it's not very deep, but I could probably climb down there. And so Nikki's holding the candle, and I go, oh, on the other side of the pit there's this opening that I've never heard about or seen in any books or anything, and it's about big enough to crawl down. And I was like, okay then. And I'm like, I've got to get across the pit here. I wouldn't want to fall into it because it's too deep for that, and it's too big to brace myself. It's it's probably 12 feet to a side. I find these old cables, and I managed to kind of swing myself across the pit and get to this tunnel, and and I start crawling down this tunnel, and I don't know where it goes and what it's for and how come I didn't know about it. And there's nothing in the books, and I'm crawling down, and I get to this place along the tunnel where all this fear is developing, and it's like all my creaturehood fears are welling up out of the darkness, and all this terror is overcoming me, and I'm like, get it together, Courtenay. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. It's been down here for millennia, unchanged, and there's nothing going to change that. It's not going to, no trapdoors, no creatures, And I overcame my creaturehood fears, and I'm just about to pass this portal, which is what it is, and Nikki's wavering voice came rolling down the tunnel. Courtenay, I don't think you should be going down there. And I could feel this fear, this whole new thing of fear swamping through me. And I was like, why not, Nikki? And she said, the Rosicrucians are having their initiation ceremony in the king's chamber right now. They're allowed to do it once a year, and it's happening at this very moment. And you are disturbing the acoustics of the pyramid by blocking this tunnel.
What?
And I was like, well, because we're here, And now, at this very precise moment when this is going on, I'm possibly the one new element, or we are, that is correcting the dynamics of the pyramid of the millennia and changes and distortions that have happened with damage and the slight movements of the planet upon which the grand plan of the pyramid was prefaced. So I didn't do that whole explanation. I said, it's okay, Nikki. and I passed the portal. I just continued on down, and it was like whew, everything fell away, and I was like alone in this shaft, deep underground, with the whole way to the pyramid above, and we're right under the pinnacle, and suddenly it ends. There's nothing there. It's just like bedrock, just bedrock, and so I kind of squiggle around. I can turn around just about. I lay down there with my head at the very end of this shaft, and I just close my eyes, and I'm suddenly just out there in the universe. I'm just traveling through the galaxies. I'm gone for an eternity. It was like an eternal moment. I traveled so many places in the universe, and finally, after seems like millennia, I come back to myself, and I'm expecting to be completely desiccated, but I come back to myself, and it's after this eternal journey, and I'm like, I'm here, I'm whole, I'm back. It was a moment of eternity. And I get myself together, and I crawl back down the tunnel and, cross the pit. And we have to get out of there because the little stub of the candle's down to nothing. It's like a little puddle. And, but, we just have to follow the staircase up and get out. So that was the first, the second morning. First morning was going to King's Chamber. Second morning was, getting access to the subterranean chamber, and that experience that was extraordinary. I mean, it was something it was a journey that showed me, things beyond imagining, and travels in a way that, science fiction, can refer to, but, I actually experienced it. And it wasn't a conjuring of my mind. It was like I just basically, I went in a moment, I was gone, and I was out there in the galaxies. And then came back, and this is one of the powers. Why was that place there? Why was it constructed? What's the shaft going to? It was a tunnel. This was a chamber of initiation. And that passing the portal was an important part of this entire complex in the pyramid for the ordinary creature. I'm not saying human, because I don't know that humans actually built it, but our predecessors certainly. We have their DNA. Certainly some of it, but the pyramid itself is a power chamber. It generates and collects enormous power. And when I looked at the sarcophagus when I first was up there, and then I get access to the pyramid anytime, so I could go up there and examine, and play with the Queen's Chamber and do harmonics and stuff, and I just, it'd be like my little treehouse. All on my own, just like exploring and sounding and looking for secret tunnels and stuff, climbing the chimney and all these things. And, I was just allowed in and out. Well, I had to be allowed in and out, with a guard or, during hours. But the most extraordinary, wonderful experience. And as long as I went into the sarcophagus for a number of hours each day and toned to the pitch of the pyramid, it's like a gramophone needle to the cosmos. On the planet Earth, those pyramids revolves around and moves around the sun, and it's like all these harmonics with all of the the constellations, and of course the planets in our solar system, and it's like it's channeling this these energies. And I honestly felt that I was being regenerated whenever I did this, because I didn't need sleep. And as it, the whole journey from beginning to end before I got home again was 21 days without sleep. And I was just sharp as a tack, and, it was just as if I had been having, wonderful sleep every night. And all I was doing was, I was toning in the sarcophagus, and I was doing 12-minute yoga rest cycles. I go back to the hotel room that I shared with Bob Nichols. Bob Nichols was this character that shared Selly. He was a Selly to Owsley Stanley when he was doing his stretch for the LSD bust. And he came onto the scene. He was a pretty tough guy. He'd done hard time, and it was all a little much for him. But I knew he meant well. But he was such a defender. He took it upon himself to defend, be a defender of the Grateful Dead. And he didn't understand me at all. And we're rooming together. They couldn't figure out who else could room with Bob Nichols, because he was a pretty tough customer. Not, the other equipment guys and stuff like that weren't, but this guy, he'd been, hardcore. And anyway, we ended up, we sorted it out after he threatened to throw me out the window. I think, well, hey, on your head be it. I can't really stop you. You're bigger and stronger than me. But, I would advise against it. And then Charlie Hiltzheimer, who bought my passage to the pyramids, he shows up. He shows up.
He shows up?
Yeah, he shows up. He promised he would.
Yeah.
And he shows up, and shows up at our hotel room. And I said, well, you can use my bed. I don't use it. I don't lay down. Mm-hmm. But he insisted on just sleeping on the floor if he needed to sleep. And Bob Nichols is like, this is all too weird for me. But Bob Nichols actually ended up writing a book about all these experiences. After the pyramid experience. It wasn't a bestseller or anything like that, but in the book, he glamorized me in that, once he'd come around to understanding that I was on some kind of magical quest, and that I was, I wasn't taking advantage of Nicky or anything, because he was like defending Rock, because, Nicky and Rock have been together for years. And when I got back, I said to Rocky, he said, she's about as good as it gets. You should have taken advantage of it while you had the chance.
You did it.
And I felt, Rock, you're just, we can share the women, we can share the wine. And, it was like, that was perfect, But he said, no, you should have gone there. I said, well, it was hard not to, because, it was offered. And at the time, and I was really tempted, but I was on a spiritual quest, that I was sharing with Nicky to some extent, and Mountain Girl. And so anyway, Bob Nichols was really, he was angry that I seemed to be seducing Nicky. I said, no, it isn't anything like that. I said, you can throw me out the window, it won't do you any good. It'll be a lot of trouble and a lot of mess.
Yes.
So anyway, and God bless him. He God love him. He he wrote this book, and he changed everything, you know, his way of thinking, and I was like the hero of his book. It was like so sweet. I was like, oh my God. I wish I'd had a copy, you know,
Do you recall the name?
and kept it. No, the name of the book? No, I don't. We could probably maybe find it. I could maybe find it. But anyway, so things are going along apace, you know. Every day I'm spending 3-4 hours in the sarcophagus. I'm exploring every little thing I can, night and day. I have appointments throughout the night on the Giza Plateau and all these places that are not open to the public. And one of them is the excavation of the Ship of the Sun. And it's not open to the public, hadn't been. It's an archaeological dig, and they're, you know, preserving it and restoring, you know, it or refining it. They're not adding to it or anything like this, you know, but it's an underground, you know, dig. Of course, it's a dig. It's underground. Yeah. Anyway, I have this appointment, so I invite Mountain Girl and Nikki Scully, and it's 2 a.m. We have to meet these guards at their little soldier box, and they're there with their guns and stuff, you know. 2 a.m. we go there, and they're brewing tea in the little soldier box, and it's like, you know, right by the, of course, it's right on the plateau there, and so I've got the 2 girls. And you know, they're both, we're still in our 20s. You know, they're very attractive, and young, and you know, by their standards, we're blonde. You know, even it doesn't matter what color your hair is, your skin is not darker, and you know, it's really alluring for these Egyptian men, you know, and because of our free spirit and, you know, the way that we dress, or not quite, you know. Where the girls are like, you know, showing more than they got on, you know. Anyway, and so they want to have a piece of this, but they're not, you know, they're like, they can't help themselves. we have a little tea, and then they offer some hashish, and you know, and I said, well, I think we should get to the tour, you know, of the Ship of the Sun. And this one guide, and we're out on the sands, you know, outside the little hut, and one of them goes to just grope Mountain Girl. He can't help himself. He's like, ah, and she's just laughing. He comes right up to her, and she just goes like that, and throws him 12 feet, hurls him through the air, and he lands on his butt. He's like, it was like, wow. I mean, she's a powerful woman, you know, and you know, Nikki's like, I'm not the droid you're looking for. I'm laughing, and these guys are like, oh, no. And they're like, oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Anyway, we got past that hurdle, and then we get in to see the Ship of the Sun. You know, this whole construction is supposedly ancient. The Ship of the Sun was drawn across the sky by the Grateful Dead, and that's part of the lore in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And you know, the fact that it was drawn across the sky by the Grateful Dead, and I mean, this is written thousands of years before, and the Grateful Dead didn't name themselves after this or anything like it. You know, they'd never heard of it probably, and it was just one of those amazing things. And here we are, they're excavating it, and so that was a pretty good place to stop.
Yes, I think
we're at 29 plus.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, I think there's more to tell about Egypt, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, so
much more.
We will continue this on another day, another Sunday, and we'll see you guys all soon. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you can always not only like, but subscribe to our channel so you get our updates every Sunday. We look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you, Heidi.
All right. Bye, guys.